بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة وعبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة. ما خاب والله من تمسك بكم، وأمن من لجأ إليكم. سادتي يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز معكم فوزا عظيما.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
قال إمامنا وحبيب قلوبنا صاحب العصر والزمان عجل الله فرجه الشريف.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
لبيك داعي الله، إن كان لم يجبك بدني عند استغاثتك ولساني عند استنصارك، فقد أجابك قلبي وسمعي وبصري. سبحان ربنا إن كان وعد ربنا لمفعولا. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
A word we hear very often, لبيك يا حسين, لبيك داعي الله. Our 12th Imam was the first person to raise his voice in this call and in this chant for his grandfather Hussein alayhi afdal salatu wassalam. He says, I respond to your call, Ya Aba Abdullah, when you asked for people to aid your cause, your mission, your revolution, your ideology, your stance, your belief. I am of those believers and I respond to you. If my body was not there to respond to you, O Imam Hussein, we were not there on the 10th of Muharram. Even the 12th Imam was not present there on the 10th of Muharram. And this is what he's telling his grandfather Imam Hussein. If my body was not present with you on the 10th of Muharram, but my tongue, my body and my tongue were not there, but my soul, my heart, my identity responded to you, O Aba Abdullah. This is what we need to learn as Muslims today. How can we respond to the calls of Imam Hussein from 14 centuries ago? When Imam Hussein called upon every single one of us for his aid. When he raised his voice on the 10th of Muharram, when he was all alone on the ground with no person to help him and aid him, he raised that dim voice saying, Hal min nasirin yansuruna. So how do we respond to the Imam? How do we show him our aid? Today, in today's society, in today's world, who do we learn from? Of course, we learn from the Imam of our time. The way he responded to his grandfather Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam, and learn his ways and what the Imam has to say in the response of the calling of his grandfather Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. The people of Kufa wrote 12,000 letters for Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. Can you imagine, brothers and sisters, you're sitting in your house and within 2 months 12,000 letters come to your house and your mailbox? We cannot even answer 12,000 emails if we got it in that short period of time. But Imam Hussein went through every single letter from the people of Kufa saying, Ya Aba Abdullah, come to us. We will aid you. We will stand by you. We are your loyal soldiers. 12,000 people. If right now you had a campaign and 12,000 people came and told you, we are dedicated to your campaign. We'll promise you we will give everything to your campaign, to your belief. We are your dedicated soldiers. Wouldn't that make you happy? Wouldn't that have you believe that these people are really going to support you? Imam Hussein alayhi afdal salatu wassalam heard the calls of these people. He read their letters and saying, إِنَّ النَّاسِ يَنْتَظَرُونَكَ يَبْنَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. They would write to him these exact words in some of the letters from the people of Kufa to Imam Hussein. إِنَّ النَّاسَ يَنْتَظَرُونَكَ يَبْنَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. That the people are waiting for you, O the grandson of Rasulullah. فالعجل العجل يا ابن رسول الله فقد أخضر الجناب وأينعت الثمار وأورقت الأشجار اقدم إن شئت فإنما تقدم على جند لك مجندة. O Aba Abdullah, hurry, al-ajal, come to us, and you will find dedicated and loyal soldiers for you. These are the letters that Imam Hussein received from the people of Kufa. But Imam Hussein did not believe them with the past experiences of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, and how they treated his beloved brother Imam al-Hasan, how they treated Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi afdal salatu wassalam. So he sent his cousin Muslim ibn Aqil to see what was going on. Are these calls true? All these people around the world saying, Ya laytana kunna ma'akum, are these calls true? So Imam Hussein sends Muslim ibn Aqil alayhi salam to the city of Kufa. 18,000 people pay allegiance to Muslim ibn Aqil as soon as his arrival in the city of Kufa. But within moments and days and hours, Muslim ibn Aqil is walking outside the house of Hani ibn Urwa without any support. He's walking through the streets of Kufa without any support. All those people who said, Ya laytana kunna ma'akum, are no longer there. They all scattered. They all ran for their lives. Let us not be like the people of Kufa. Yesterday in this hall there was almost 400 people. Today there is at 40. We as Shia, are we like the people of Kufa? Do we have similarities and things in common with the people of Kufa? We say that Imam Hussein is every day. Imam Hussein is every day. Every day you have to live the life of Imam Hussein. And there are some, every day they live the life of the Kufans. Talk is very cheap. It's when actions come to play, when there is value in those acts. Yes, words are very cheap. We'll all stand and say, Ya laytana kunna ma'akum. But how many of us, when the truth comes and when it's time to act, will be of those 72 individuals only from that great ummah and numbers of the Muslims who stood up and defended the household of Rasulullah and stood with Imam Hussein in fighting injustice and tyranny. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There are many things that we should learn from the history of Imam Hussein. When we read the people in the history of Imam Hussein, we need to analyze them. We need to analyze the people of Kufa and what they did to Imam Hussein. We need to analyze the enemies of Imam Hussein and understand their lives. And we need to analyze the companions of the Imam and what they stood for, so we could input that into our own lives. Yes, The people of Kufa did write messages. They did say they would be loyal soldiers to Imam Hussein. But at the end of the day, when Imam Hussein's family returned to Kufa, they were holding drums. They were laughing and making mockery of the same household that they said they would be loyal soldiers to. They came out and greeting the household of Imam Hussein when they returned as captives, and drums and music and festivity. The same people. That one moment they're saying, Ya laytana kunna ma'akum, or we wish that we are with you, the household of Rasulullah. They're holding drums now as soon as they have brought them back captives. Those are the same human beings as us. They are no different. You cannot say that I am any different. Humans back 14 centuries ago were different, and humans now are different. No, we're made out of the same flesh, same components, same brain, same everything. We can fall in the shoes of the people of Kufa and the Kufans. One moment we might claim that we are with Ahlul Bayt and we want to protect Ahlul Bayt and live for Ahlul Bayt, but when it comes to reality, we scatter like Kufans. We're a big community. How many of us are willing to stand in the kitchen when it comes to the 10 days of Muharram or the 30 days of Ramadan? There's usually 1 or 2 people who dedicate themselves to stand in the kitchen and clean and cook. How many of us are willing to clean the restrooms, to clean the masjid, to vacuum? Unfortunately, Brother Arif has to stand here and say, you need to pick up your trash. This is very sad, brothers and sisters. You're not contributing to Imam Hussein's cause. You're being a hurdle. You're standing on the other side when you're acting this way. How many of us are willing to sacrifice their time, their wealth, their children, everything for Imam Hussein? This is what Imam al-Mahdi Ajjalallah Farajah tells us and teaches us. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam raised his banner against injustice and also made it clear for every single Muslim and every single believer his message to join him against injustice and tyranny, and those who do join him will see eternal happiness, and those who don't, knowing that this is the only right path, the path of Imam Hussein, and who do not join will be in eternal punishment. You know that this is the right way, that you have to walk with Imam Hussein. And if you flee from Imam Hussein and his cause, you're contributing to the cause of those who stood against him. Imam Hussein says, "Man sama'a wa'iyatuna falam yansurna akabbahu Allah ala min kharayhi fin nar." He who heard my calls, he who heard my message, he who heard my tragedy, and does not stand and strive to have this message ongoing, to have this message flourish, to have this lantern grow stronger, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have him nosedive into the fires of Jahannam. Because you have already seen the truth. You have already heard the truth. You know where the truth relies and resides. And if you're like the Kufans and you blackball this message and this revolution of Imam Hussein and his cause, that is your result. Don't blame anyone else but yourself. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed you the ways of glory and to the way of glory. When it comes to putting words into actions, that's where it matters. And that's what the people of Kufa could not do. Today, as Shias around the world, we might be around 200 million. Some say 300 million. 300 million people could do a lot of things around the world. They could make a lot of changes around the world if they dedicate themselves to Imam Hussein. But again, out of 300 million, only a handful stand out to protect the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and protect the seerah of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. Only a few. Words are for free. They have no value. They have no meaning. Value comes when you put those words into actions. And we learn that from the Imam of our time. When we read Az-Ziyara Nahiya of the Imam of our time, the Imam tells us how to act, how to be towards the Imam of our time. How to be towards Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. He says, من لو كان معك بالطفوف. This is a message from someone who, if he was with you there present on the 10th day of Muharram, لوفاك بنفسه حد السيوف. لوفاك بنفسه لوقاك بنفسه حد السيوف. He would have made himself ransom to the edges of the swords. This is the Imam of our time saying this. This is not a normal man. He's saying, if I was present there, I would have placed my flesh before yours, in front of the swords, in front of the spears. وَبَذَلَ حَشَاشَتُهُ دُونَكْ لِلْحُتُوفِ. And he would make even his insides, his heart, his liver, his kidneys, everything ransom to you, to protect you, O the grandson of Fatima, O the fifth of Ashab al-Kisa. This is the Imam of our time speaking. وَجَاهَدَ بَيْنَ يَدَيْكَ وَنَصَرَكَ عَلَى مَنْ بَغَى عَلَيْكَ وَفَدَاكَ بِرُوحِهِ وَجَسَدِهِ وَمَالِهِ وَوَلْدِهِ. And he would have sacrificed his own soul, his life, his wealth, his body and his children to you, Ya Abu Abdullah. This is how we can stand with Imam Hussein today. We have to give him everything. Imam Hussein gave everything for us, even his infant. What are we willing to give back? The Imam of our time says, I am willing to give everything to you. And he mentions what's important. Himself, I make myself present when Imam Hussein needs me. I make myself available when Imam Hussein needs me. When people call and say, hey, we need a volunteer to do this at the masjid on the 10th of Muharram, on the 9th of Muharram, 7th of Muharram, you're there to volunteer. There is nothing else more valuable and more important than standing for Imam Hussein and making yourself available for Imam Hussein. We have to realize that people lost their lives so we can remember Imam Hussein today. Scholars, hundreds of scholars were beheaded and killed so this message reaches you today. It was not just Ahlul Bayt themselves, but those who truly lived by this message, that we will be with you, O Abu Abdullah, no matter what time or era that we are in. The grandfather of Sharif al-Radi, his maternal grandfather, was beheaded by the Abbasi government for spreading the stories of Imam Hussein, the tales of Imam Hussein. For he was a person who has spread the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, alayhim salatu wassalam. He was beheaded and killed and made a shaheed, 300 Hijri, only few years after the shahada of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But they stayed, they fought, they made everything cheap when it came to Imam Hussein. Nothing had value, not their souls, not their bodies, not their lives, not their wealth, not their children. We hear of Sharif al-Radi and his book Nahj al-Balagha. But what made him into such a man was his grandfather. who is willing to sacrifice himself for Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal as-salatu was-salam. His name was Al-Husayn bin Ali al-Mulaqab bil-Atrush. And he lived in the time of Bani al-Abbas, and he was killed by Bani al-Abbas because he would remind people of the revolution of Imam Hussein, the message of Imam Hussein. Another scholar by Ali ibn Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Ma'ruf bil-Allan, and he was the uncle of Al-Kulayni, Al-Shaykh Al-Kulayni. He was the Khal, the brother of his mother. This man was burnt alive because he would write poems regarding Ahlul Bayt and the love of Ahlul Bayt and the love of Imam Hussein. He was burnt alive, the uncle of Shaykh Al-Kulayni. People gave their lives, but they made their lives cheap. My life means nothing when it comes to Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, the cause of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. Another man by the name of Ali ibn Abdullah al-Ma'ruf bin Nashi al-Asghar. This man was 96 when they crucified him. He was 96 when Bani al-Abbas crucified him for being a lover of Ahlul Bayt and a person who would preach about Imam Hussein, the revolution of Imam Hussein and his fight against injustice and tyranny. Now, how many of us are willing to do this? How many of us are willing to do this, to keep on spreading the message of Imam Hussein and Ahlul Bayt, even if there is danger alert, and even if there is danger awaiting us, awaiting our families? Sheikh al-Mufid would move from house to house every day in Baghdad because they would try to kill him. The Uthmanis wanted to kill him. Every day he would move from a house to another house just to protect himself. But he knew his life was in danger, but he still wrote about the fada'il and virtues of Ahlul Bayt, their tragedies, their sorrow, and their pain. And when he passed away, the Wali of Baghdad made a festival for 7 straight days. But these people put themselves in danger. They saw that Imam Hussein put himself in danger. He put his neck to the swords, his family's neck to the swords. Why will we not do the same thing for Imam Hussein? So this is one thing we learned from Aba Abdullah al-Hussein through the words of the Imam of our time. Second, we learned from the Imam of our time in Ziyarah al-Nahiyah that we need to give our wealth also for Imam Hussein alayhi afdal salatu wassalam. We should not worry about our wealth. Wealth should become cheap and mean nothing when it comes to Aba Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. There was a king. There was a king at a time, and this king goes on a hunting trip with his soldiers, his guards, his ministers. He gets lost in the middle of the desert hunting. He sees a small tent. He enters that tent. He sees a very old lady sitting in that tent. Now this king is very thirsty. He's very tired. He's very hungry. He asks this old lady if she has something to offer him for food, shelter. She says, yes, my son, I live with my son. Only my son and I live in this area. My son will come back in a moment and he will feed you and will give you water as well. This king stands outside the tent. He sees that these people only own 1 cow. That they live off this cow, off the milk, off the produce that this cow gives them. And when this young man returns, he slaughters this cow for this king, not knowing that he's a cow, but a king. But he offers everything to the king, everything that he owned. The king tells him, when you come to the city, ask about me, and I will reward you, as if you have rewarded me and saved my life. The king returns to his people and asks his people, his ministers, how do I show ihsan and kindness to this man as he did. One tells him, give him 100,000 golden dinars. This other person tells him, marry one of your daughters to him. The other one says, give him a big piece of land. The king responds, you don't understand. This man gave everything he owned. He didn't own anything besides this cow. Years pass. This young man goes to the city. He asks about this king. They tell him, oh, you're asking about the king? This is where he is. They take him to the king's courtyard. And when the king sees this man, he takes off his crown and places it on the head of this man. He says, this man gave me everything. Would only be just an equivalent that I give him everything that I own. Imam Hussein gave everything that he owned in this life to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything that he owned. His brothers, sisters, children. Everything. Imam Hussein could have been like us as well. And said, why do you save myself the headache? And just walk away. But Imam Hussein sacrificed everything so you and I could still be here today. There was a person by the name of Abdul Rada. He would conduct the burials and the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in the city of Karbala. That was his job as the custodian. One of the custodians that would work in the shrine of Imam Hussein and the haram of Imam Hussein. He would bury those who pass away in the haram of Imam Hussein. And years before, the haram of Imam Hussein used to have a basement. People used to go in the basement and make their ziyarah in the basement. And people were buried in the basement. So one day, Abdullah is sitting in the haram of Imam Hussein, and this young man at the age of 9, 10 comes with a janazah, with a corpse to the haram of Imam Hussein, and they ask Abdullah to bury this woman. Abdullah says, she doesn't have a husband, a brother, anything. I can't touch this lady and place her in the grave. The young kid says, no, I am the only person that she has. So Abdullah says, I took her down, I held her from the sides of her kafan, and I tried to place her into her grave. When I stepped into her grave, the grave changed. This person actually lived, brothers and sisters. This is not a dream. This is not a fictional story. Abdullah Ad-Dafan used to be a very well-known person in Karbala. He says, everything changed in the grave, and I was in the middle of a paradise. And I saw a man come walk towards this woman and take her hands and take her into that paradise. But as soon as I saw him, I fainted. The person narrating the story says people started calling for Abdullah. Abdullah, why are you not coming out of the basement? Until an hour passed, 2 hours passed, 3 hours passed. They went down and they saw he had fainted. They poured water on his face. As soon as he woke up, he asked that young boy, did your mother have a special relationship with Imam Hussein? And he said, no, my mother was a very simple woman. Yes, she would come visit Imam Hussein weekly. But yes, there was something special that she would do. We had a vineyard. She would feed us from that vineyard, and every day she would also put some fruits aside for the zawar of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Every week when people would come to Karbala from Baghdad, from Najaf, from the provinces around, my mother would feed the zawar of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Your wealth, brothers and sisters, spent the right way and the correct way, Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam will come to you as well. This lady did not do anything special. She just gave to Imam Hussein. She gave to Imam Hussein. Sometimes, unfortunately, on the 10th of Muharram funds are still short. The majalis finish, the funds are still short when we have people capable of giving in our communities? Why are we always short when it comes to Imam Hussein? Why are we always short when it comes to the message of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein? This is something that we need to think of, brothers and sisters. We want the shafa'ah of Ahlul Bayt, but we're not willing to pay the price. We want Ahlul Bayt to intercede for us on the day that we pass from this world, but we're not willing to pay the price. How many of us are willing to pay that price? Out of the millions, only 72. Always the numbers are small. Let us be of those who stand with Aba Abdullah and aid him with our nafs, with our bodies, with our wealth, and with our children. How can we provide our children and have them to be a part of the cause of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein? We'll give two quick examples. The mother of Wahab, she stood there on the 10th of Muharram encouraging her son to go fight and defend Imam Hussein. She told him, I don't want you to return until your body is returned without a head to me. Go fight. Go protect the grandson of Hussein. Abdullah bin Ja'far, the husband of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, sent his two boys to protect Imam Hussein, Awn and Muhammad. No one is asking you today to send your son into Aleppo or Mosul to fight against ISIS. No one's doing that. No one's gonna ask you that. But how many of us are willing to send our children to become alim, to go to the Hawza, to go study the teachings of Ahlul Bayt? Or we just want to rely on, that family and this family. They're good enough. MashaAllah, they're a big family. They could give enough lectures. My son, he could go become a doctor. My son, he could go become an engineer. We know becoming a Maulana is not a well-paying job, so it's okay. Some other people would do it. How many of us think this way? Unfortunately, 99.99% of people in our communities. This is why we do not see young Muslim Shias entering the Hawza, coming to the Hawza and learning the ahadith and the teachings of Ahlul Bayt and spreading the message of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. So next time you want to say, Ya laytana kunna ma'akum, remember these words of mine. Remind yourself the words of the Imam of our time, that we dedicate ourselves to you with our souls, our nafs, our wealth, and our children. This is the way. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And then the Imam says, I will remember you day and night, and mourn you day and night. Abu Abdullah, I was not there to protect you and fight for you, but I will remember your tragedy every day. I will remind myself of what you stood for every day of my life. لَأَنْدُبَنَّكَ صَبَاحًا وَمَسَاءً. Every morning and every night, I will weep for you, Ya Aba Abdullah. What does this mean? What is the Imam of our time trying to tell us? How do we live by the teachings of Imam Hussein today? Two of Imam Hussein's eternal words, if we study them and understand them, we could live by them every day. First, Imam Hussein says, Mithli la yubayi' mithlah. A person like me, Hussein ibn Ali, the grandson of Rasulullah, will never pay allegiance to a person like Yazid. How many of us are willing to put our hands in the hands of people who do not live the life of Imam Hussein for our personal interests? The interest of our business, the interest of our power in the community, the interest of our fame. We're willing to do anything. But Imam Hussein says that if you want to live my life, never place your hands in the hands of a person like Yazid. Fight injustice, fight tyranny. This will always be a current issue. There will always be a tyrant and a person spreading injustice. Even when it comes to this country, how many people voted for this lunatic? You know, starting wars with everybody. This guy is going to kill everybody. He's like Yazid. There's no difference. مثلي لا يبايع مثله. We have to make that known, that we do not agree with his actions. We don't agree with his words. We don't agree even if he is the President of the United States. It doesn't matter. We beg to differ. And we don't agree with him. You have to make that clear. مثلي لا يبايع مثله. This person is killing innocent people. He's picking fights with every president, with every general, with every basketball, football player, with everybody. This person is a loose cannon. مثلي لا يبايع مثله. And he's doing this for his personal desires. Personal desires. There are people dying in a country right next to his, and this guy is swinging a golf club. He doesn't care. Same thing with Yazid. People were dying. People were being killed. This guy was dressing up his monkey. His own personal desires. So this will always be relevant. Every day of your life you could live this. Also, مثلي لا يبايع مثله. What does that mean? A person like me, Imam Hussein, who stood for Islamic principles. And Yazid that stood for principles that went against Islam. For example, Yazid started spreading the dominance of race, dominance of tribes, dominance of ethnicity. Some things that were absolutely against Islam and the teachings of Rasulullah. And that is still present today. There are still people within our communities that spread this today. Oh, he cannot join the volleyball tournament because he's not one of us. He cannot become a president because he's not from this country. He cannot lead us because he's not from this city. He cannot do this because he's not from our community. He's not one of us. Brothers and sisters, we're all Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib. None of these should be relevant. Your race, your village, your ethnicity, your heritage. The only heritage that we carry is the heritage of Abu Abdullah saying, مثلي لا يبايع مثله. وقال أبا عبد الله الحسين ألا ترون إلى الحق لا يعمل به وإلى الباطل لا ينتهى عنه. And do you not see that justice is not implemented today and injustice is not prevented? Do we see that today? We as Muslims, we see a lot of injustice in this country. Do we stand up and make a comment and make our voices heard? Yes, there is a lot of injustice. African Americans in this country see injustice every day. We see that every day. Have we made our voices heard? Have we had the voice of Imam Hussein reach these people who are seeing injustice? Has any of us walked and marched in one of these rallies asking for equality, race equality? Have we been there? Have we mentioned Imam Hussein and what he did for Joan on the 10th of Muharram as a sign of equality when Yazid was saying, these people do not matter? Imam Hussein came and said, no, black lives do matter, and placed the face of Joan on his face, and placed his cheeks on the cheeks of Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein will always be a current issue, but we as Muslims, this is how we need to live by it and how we need to spread it. We were not there on the 10th of Muharram to protect Imam Hussein, but these are ways and methods of how we can spread the message of Imam Hussein and protect Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. We need to go to people's doors. We need to go knock on people's doors to get this message across. Imam Hussein alayhi salam went and stood on the tent, the doors of the tent of Wahab. Imam Hussein went to him. Wahab didn't come to him. Imam Hussein went and stood by the tent of Wahab, and he told his mother that, tell Wahab that I came and I give him my salam, and he will know the rest of the story. Imam Hussein initiated guidance. He initiated the call to Wahab, and Wahab responded and protected Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam till his last breath. Trust me, brothers and sisters, there are people in this country, they might not be Muslims. They might not believe in God probably yet. But if you tell them the tragedy of Imam Hussein and what Imam Hussein stood for values, they will be the next Wahab. They will be the next Wahab that does not give up in striving and protecting the message of Imam Hussein until his last breath. But we need to go to them like Imam Hussein stood at the tents of Wahab alayhi salam. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Of the greatest tragedies upon Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wassalam. Ahlul Bayt, they saw many tragedies. Many tragedies. The death of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, the breaking of the ribs of Fatima alayha salamullah, the death of Al-Muhsin, the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the poisoning of Imam al-Hasan, the death of Imam Hussein, they never forgot. The day of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, they never forgot. Even when Imam al-Hussein was standing by his brother, Imam al-Hasan, and Imam Hasan is now with all this pain from the poison. Imam Hasan looks at his brother Abu Abdullah and he says, La yawm ka yawmaka ya Abu Abdullah. There is no day like your day, ya Abu Abdullah. Why? Why is there no day like the day of Imam Hussein? What makes the day of Imam Hussein so special? They asked Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi afdal salatu wassalam. They asked him, Abu Hamza al-Thamali asked Imam Zayn al-Abidin, why is it when you hear the tragedy of Imam Hussein, you cannot control yourself? Why is it that every day when you see someone drinking water, you cry and weep? Every time you see someone slaughtering a sheep, you ask them if they gave that sheep water, and you cry and weep in front of people. Will you never forget the day of Muharram, the 10th day of Muharram? This is what Abu Hamza al-Thamali is telling Imam Zayn al-Abidin. He tells him, isn't death and martyrdom something normal to you, Ahlul Bayt? It's something normal to you. You guys are all shaheeds. The response of Imam Zayn al-Abidin says, yes, na'am. Al-mawtu lana adah wa karamatuna min Allah al-shahadah. But oh, Abu Hamza, did you hear of a daughter of Rasulullah taken as a captive? Did you see one of the daughters of Rasulullah taken as captives? Did you hear that the daughters of Rasulullah were locked in chains? Did you hear that the daughters of Rasulullah were beaten and whipped? Thus, we could never forget the day of Hussein. When the daughters of Imam Hussein and the women of Imam Hussein reached the city of Kufa, and they were taken inside the courtyard of Ibn Ziyad, they say that Zainab alayhi salam wore her cheapest of clothing, the thickest of clothing. And she sat with her head down in the courtyard of Ibn Ziyad. Ibn Ziyad noticed this woman. She's sitting, there's a light to her face, there's a presence to her. All the ladies are surrounding her. He asked, who is this lady? No response. 2 times, no response. 3 times, what is your name? Until they told him, this is Zainab, the daughter of Ali ibn Abi Talib. He starts to laugh and rejoice. He says, Alhamdulillah alladhi akhzakum. Praise to Allah that He destroyed you and spilled your blood. Zainab alayhi salam starts to cry. And every time she raised her head, she would witness a very heartbreaking thing. She would witness Ibn Ziyad hitting Imam Hussein's face with his stick, hitting Imam Hussein's nose with his stick, hitting Imam Hussein's lips with his sticks. Zayd ibn Arqam says that I walked in the courtyard of Ibn Ziyad and I saw Ibn Ziyad hitting Imam Hussein's face with his stick on his lips, on his nose. And I told him, Wayhak, may Allah curse you. I have seen Rasulullah kiss those lips. I have seen Rasulullah kiss that nose, that cheeks, that lips. May Allah curse you, O Ibn Ziyad. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.